Hello everyone, this is Martin with Steadfast and Orion. In this video I want to talk about nickel and diming customers. I know as truck drivers you want to get paid, you want to get your fuel, you want to get everything that you're basically working for. The problem is we can't honestly charge for everything. There's a problem that trucking has or transportation has right now, that there's individual drivers working just a single truck with their own authority, no other trucks, just one truck. They're working off load boards. These guys were working off Uber Freight, LoadMatch, DAT, TruckInternet.com or InternetTruckStop.com, and they're bidding these loads to their requirements, right? They don't have overhead, they don't have other trucks that they need to worry about. They just have themselves in that truck. So sometimes they'll nickel and dime because they're only worried about that one truck, nothing else. In a larger sense, when you have multiple trucks, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 100 trucks, there's going to be customers that will leave you if you nickel and dime them. Short nickel and dime would be maybe a scale ticket. I know drivers need to get scaled, but it's probably best that the trucking companies either understand that that's part of the business, or if you're able to charge for it because it's a requirement, then you can charge for it. But 9 times out of 10, you can't charge for scales, because what happens is, if the driver, let's say I give a driver a load from the Port of Houston going to Dallas. If the driver, like if the customer tells us it's a legal load, it's a legal limit, great, cool. That's what it is. We don't know, but that's what the customer's telling us on the delivery order or on the email. Now, if a driver gets to the port and he has that little gauge in his truck where it tells him it's over, over on the gross, or it's just over whatever, you still need to swing by the scale. Because you need to know, number one, where you're at, because the DOT officer is also not going to go by your little gauge. They're going to want to see something in writing. And 9 out of 10 times they're going to pull you over to the scale and have it in writing. If you don't have it in writing, then you don't know how you're driving. You don't know if you're legal on your gross, legal on your axles. So that's an individual driver thing that they have to do on their own. The trucking company shouldn't tell the driver what to do. They should know what to do, especially in that instance. If you're out of town, let's say you're in Louisiana or you're in Dallas and you're headed back to Houston or you're headed back to your base, and they load you up and you think you're over, you still need to go by the scale, because we need to make sure that you're over. We just can't guess. We can't tell customers we think we're over, we're going to have to go back. No, we need to know for sure. Now, drivers want to get paid for that. Honestly, that's not something customers honestly pay for. The warehouse messed up either by loading it that way, or possibly something is wrong with the loading pattern that they might have to take something out, or that's just the way that it can be loaded. It can't be rearranged. That's the only way that you can load it. So now it becomes do you have an overweight? Do you have the over axle allowed gross, the 10%, 5% permit, whatever. So you can't do that across state lines. I mean, it's an individual load by load basis or case by case basis when you come into problems like that. So each individual problem you have to treat it uniquely, because they're unique. You can't treat every problem the same. For the most part, you kind of get an idea of what everything should be or looks like or wants to be. But like I said, if we're in Texas and we're over, we have permits. If you're going to Louisiana, you probably have to buy permits. So if you're not going to do that on more than one occasion, it's probably not worth it for you to buy the permit. So there's things that trucking companies look at, because they have to look at it from a broader standpoint. They just can't look at it from 1 or 2 drivers. Because I don't want to lose a good customer because I'm a nickel and dime them on a scale ticket when it's part of the driver's routine job. Now, if the driver wants to get paid the scale fee, if the customer requires us to stop and wait, you know what I'm saying? If they're asking for a light and heavy scale ticket, yeah, I believe the trucking companies should charge for that and pay the drivers for that. But if it's not required, if the driver just thinks, then pull over, and then you're gonna get, let's just say the driver does pull a box and it's overweight, and he has the overweight permit. With the scale ticket, if the customer told us that it's not overweight and it turns out that it is, we're able to charge for the overweight fee and pay the driver accordingly, but we're not able to charge for the scale fee. I mean, there's also some type of risk and some type of loss and some type of money that the driver has to put into as well. Because the driver just can't make all the money and the trucking company not be able to charge for it. But then now becomes a loss for the trucking company. I don't think there's a driver that wants to take a loss. And if you have more than 5 drivers, 6 drivers, 7 drivers, if you're your own business and you know this, those are the guys who understand the business. The ones that have more than 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 trucks. The guys who just have 1 or 2 trucks, they don't really understand it. Because some of them do. I apologize. Some of them do. The thing is, when you have more trucks, the more customers, the more accounts, and the more tedious it gets, and the more discounts they're going to want, and the better volume you'll get. So if you nickel and dime customers, it's just a recipe for disaster. It'll catch up to you, especially on the downturns. I'll go back to 2007, 2008. There was people before then, in 2005, 2006, that were charging astronomical numbers for this and for that. Same thing like 2018, they were charging for this and for that. And we're getting back to that again 3 years later. They're charging for everything. But yet last year in 2020, when work kind of slowed down for a few months, they were shaving off anywhere they could to get business because there was no business. But meanwhile, they were nickel and diming the customers the years before. So the drivers felt it whenever they couldn't do the same then. So be honest with your customers, be honest with your drivers. They don't like surprises just like you don't like surprises as a customer. You don't want to go to the store today and it's $5 and then tomorrow all of a sudden you show up and the product is $20. There's a good possibility that you're not going to buy it. Same thing with customers. If I tell them today it's $50 and then tomorrow, driver got mad so I'm going to have to charge you $150, they're not going to like that. They're going to go somewhere else. And you lose the business, and hopefully not, you lose the customer. But sometimes that happens, and more times than not, believe it or not, that is the case. It's not that trucking companies don't want to charge or pay you. It's just sometimes it's very hard. And sometimes you have to think about it the long way, the long game. This is a marathon, not a run. Think about it 4 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. If you harness that customer, if you have a good relationship with that customer, and you don't nickel and dime them, there's a good chance that they're going to be with you for the long run. And those customers pay you well. I promise you that. Thank you guys for listening.